All right, let's get right into it. I'm Advisor A, your strategic advisor.
And I'm Advisor B, leading risk and operations.
A huge thank you to the board and the executive team for joining us for this executive briefing explainer. You know, over the last couple of years, we've watched this room authorize some pretty massive capital investments into artificial intelligence. You've vetted the platforms, you've really championed experimentation, and honestly, you've aggressively pushed to deploy this tech across all your departments. But today, we actually need to take a really hard look at the incredibly high stakes of those investments. We're going to reevaluate pretty much everything we thought we knew about where the true value of AI actually lives inside a mature organization.
And that brings us right to our core thesis for today's session. AI adoption is becoming a commodity. AI governance is becoming a competitive advantage. We really need to fundamentally reframe this super dangerous assumption that's kind of floating around the C-suite right now. It's this idea that just deploying AI tools, just getting them into the hands of your teams as fast as humanly possible, will magically create a sustainable business edge. Spoiler alert, it won't. The real differentiator out there in the market, it's no longer about who just has the tech. It's about who actually has the structural discipline to harness it safely.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 6 critical areas: the AI adoption trap, the growing governance deficit, the real risks of shadow AI, the 5 pillars of governance, scaling through strategic trust, and finally, the executive mandate.
Let's start things off with Section 1, the AI adoption trap, and really looking at why leadership teams have to move way beyond this rush to deploy. So, think back to, maybe 18 months ago? The defining question at practically every single corporate offsite was just, how can we adopt AI? The entire focus of the executive team was purely on velocity. But today, the most mature organizations are pivoting sharply. They are actively splitting away from that outdated mindset and asking a new, way more strategic question. How can we govern AI?
Exactly. And honestly, if you aren't asking that second question, you're already lagging behind the maturity curve. This shift is absolutely vital. It's the transition from treating AI as some fun, experimental novelty to treating it like what it really is: core, heavily regulated operational infrastructure.
And here's the hard truth about why that shift is completely mandatory. AI tools are accessible to your entire workforce literally in a matter of minutes. Just to put that into perspective, generative AI models hit 100 million users in 2 months. Your competitors have the exact same capabilities that your teams do, usually before they've even finished their morning coffee.
Right. And in the world of business strategy, when everyone has immediate access to the exact same shiny new tools, adoption itself just drops to being a mere commodity. If your biggest rivals can spin up the exact same generative models that your own engineers are using, well, mere adoption gives you absolutely zero sustainable competitive advantage. Zero.
Moving to Section 2, the growing governance deficit. This is where we're seeing a really dangerous friction point blowing up across the corporate landscape. This massive imbalance between the blistering speed of deployment and the actual establishment of proper oversight.
To understand exactly where we are right now, we really only need to look at our own recent tech history. Think back to 2010. We saw this massive, totally unmanaged rush to the cloud. And it took years, until about 2016, for organizations to finally do those incredibly painful shadow IT audits, to rein in all those rogue AWS instances, and actually build proper cybersecurity and access controls.
And the scary part is, today, we are repeating that exact same cycle, but literally at 100 times the speed. In 2023, we saw explosive, unmanaged generative AI adoption. Now we are racing headfirst toward the inevitable shift to AI governance. The organizations that actually learn from the painful lessons of the cloud era and lock in their governance frameworks right now, those are the ones who will avoid accumulating a massive pile of organizational debt.
Which brings us nicely into Section 3, exposing the real risks of shadow AI. It is definitely time to look at the operational friction that is directly caused by this growing governance deficit.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that we need to get one thing straight regarding shadow AI. It's almost never born out of malicious intent. By definition, it's just the independent use of AI tools by your employees who are simply trying to boost their own productivity. I mean, it's your absolute best marketing manager using some unvetted large language model to just write copy a bit faster, or an analyst pasting raw data into a free web tool so they can get a quick pivot table.
Exactly. They just want to do their jobs better. But the catch is, they are operating completely in the dark, without any leadership visibility or oversight. And that elevates shadow AI from a quirky little IT headache to a formal, highly urgent organizational threat. Because at the end of the day, you simply cannot protect against what you cannot see.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we leave those blind spots completely unchecked. Let's do an unsparing audit here. On the data protection side, well-meaning employees might unknowingly upload your core intellectual property or highly confidential customer data straight into third-party AI systems. I mean, we recently saw a major Fortune 500 company accidentally leak their proprietary source code globally just because an engineer was trying to debug a little faster using an unapproved tool. And with compliance, you're risking a total failure to meet legal or regulatory duties, which exposes the firm to just massive liability.
And it doesn't stop there. Operationally speaking, when you have different departments using totally unapproved, disconnected tools, they end up generating wildly inconsistent outputs that severely degrades your quality and your customer trust. Strategically, you just end up with these highly fragmented initiatives that burn right through your resources without aligning to your broader business goals. It's honestly a recipe for brand degradation.
So, solving these incredibly complex challenges requires a real structural methodology, not just tossing another software fix at it. Section 4, the 5 pillars of governance. This is the structural foundation we absolutely need to build, starting immediately.
All right, these are the 5 foundational pillars every single mature organization has to implement. First up, risk management. You need to be actively identifying and monitoring the specific risks AI poses to both your firm's reputation and your bottom line. Second is policy and accountability. You have to clearly define exactly who can use AI, which tools are actually vetted and approved, and most importantly, who holds the bag when things inevitably go wrong. Third is human oversight, and please remember this, AI advises but humans decide, and humans are the ones who take the legal liability. These systems are designed to support your decision-making, not to replace accountability. Fourth is security and privacy. You must protect your most sensitive trade secrets from getting sucked into unauthorized learning models. And finally, compliance, ensuring that all of your AI practices strictly align with those constantly evolving global regulations.
Moving on to Section 5, scaling through strategic trust. Let's take a minute to completely dispel this common executive myth that governance is just a bunch of corporate red tape designed to slow down your progress.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because I love this analogy. Think of governance like the brakes on a Formula One car. You don't install brakes on a race car to go slow, right? You install them so you can drive at 200 miles per hour right into a hairpin corner without crashing. It all starts with governance. Strong rules, clear policies, and tight risk controls don't restrict your workforce, they actually create safety.
Spot on. And that safety, that creates trust. When your teams trust the parameters they are working within, and leadership trusts the oversight process, you get confident, widespread adoption. Confident adoption is what actually allows you to scale AI across the entire enterprise efficiently. And it is only through that massive, controlled scale that you finally start generating true, sustainable business value. Governance is the engine of velocity, not the brake.
Which brings us to our final section, number 6, the executive mandate. This is really a direct audit of the people sitting in this room. We've got some pretty critical questions for the C-suite.
I really want you to honestly consider this first question. Do we actually know where AI is being used inside our organization right now? Just let the weight of that potential visibility gap sink in for a second. If you cannot confidently map every single active AI deployment across your departments today, you are already operating at a severe disadvantage.
And following right up on that, do we know exactly which tools our employees are using? Because if you don't, I gotta tell you, it is highly probable that confidential corporate information, highly sensitive strategy documents, and proprietary source code are bleeding into unapproved external third-party servers right now, as we speak.
Next question. Are we managing AI risk as rigorously as our cybersecurity or our financial risk? Think about it. You would literally never let a single department invent its own financial compliance rules, or just bypass the corporate firewall because it was more convenient. That would be absurd. So why is artificial intelligence currently getting a free pass? Are your organizational structures actually treating AI with that same level of operational severity?
And finally, the ultimate operational challenge. Can we confidently scale AI adoption across the entire organization? So the crucial point is really this. You cannot scale an unmanaged network, period. Attempting to scale a fragmented, messy web of shadow applications is only going to scale your risk, your inconsistencies, and your legal liabilities. Scale absolutely requires structure.
So, we'll leave you with this final provocation to take back to your teams. The future of AI leadership is defined not by how quickly you adopt, but how effectively you govern. The organizations that are actually going to win the AI era, they won't be the ones who adopted the tech first. They are going to be the ones who learn how to manage it, trust it, and scale it responsibly.
Exactly. It's time to move way beyond the simple commodity of adoption and start building your competitive advantage through strategic governance. Thank you all for engaging with this explainer. The mandate is yours now.